Hello everyone, welcome to Easy Biology. The topic is about the world of microorganisms part 2. The world of microorganisms part 2. We know already microorganisms are present everywhere. So they are present in air, water, soil. So everywhere microorganisms are present. At the same time, whether all the microorganisms are useful and all are harmful, right? So some are useful and some are harmful. Some microorganisms are useful while some are harmful. So in the previous part 1 we discussed about the different types of microorganisms are present. Bacteria, fungi, algae, protozoa, viruses and microarthropods. We discussed that all these are the different types of microorganisms which are present in our surroundings in different places, right? So in this lesson what we are going to discuss is about useful microorganisms. Okay, useful microorganisms. In these useful microorganisms, first we will discuss about domestic use of microorganisms. So domestic in the sense, in our daily life, microorganisms are utilized in many ways and they are helpful for us in many ways. So domestic use of microorganisms means in our home, how microorganisms are helpful to us. So daily we are adding a little amount of curd to a bowl of milk. Okay, if we add a teaspoon of curd to a bowl containing milk, lukewarm milk, that entire milk changes into curd. Okay, so this is nothing but domestic use, means how we are using microorganisms in our home. So which microorganism is responsible for the conversion of milk into curd is lactobacillus. Lactobacillus bacterium is responsible for the conversion of milk into curd. And also some more examples is fermented foods. Fermented foods. Which are called fermented foods? Idli, dosa are called fermented foods. So generally to prepare such food items, we have to prepare the dough before the day. Okay. So for example, if the food item has to become in the form of fermentation, okay, then what we have to do is we have to add a little amount of yeast. In little amount of yeast, whenever we add it, the food item becomes spongy in nature. Okay, so here yeast is the microorganism which is responsible to make the food in spongy nature. Okay, and that is the reason even idli and dosa dough which is prepared day before, because of the production of carbon dioxide gas, the food items seems to be tasty like that. Okay, so food items which are prepared in this manner, those are called fermented foods. Next, use of microorganisms in industries. Means industrial use of microorganisms. Right. So here industrial use of microorganisms means, for example, whenever we are boiling milk, the reason for boiling milk is to preserve, right? Boiling of milk makes it to preserve. Okay, so what about the industrial usage here? For example, especially in wine industry or alcohol industry. So barley and grapes, these food items are used in the preparation of wine or alcohol by adding yeast. So here what will happen? For example, when we add this yeast to glucose solution, the glucose changes into alcohol. Okay, this conversion of sugars or glucose, into alcohol with the help of yeast is called fermentation. Okay, so what is fermentation? Is conversion of sugars into alcohol with the help of yeast is called fermentation. So of course sugars are available in barley and grapes, that is why they are used in preparation of wine. Okay, so this is the industrial use of microorganisms. Next, medicinal use of microorganisms. Medicinal use of microorganisms. So generally we are familiar that whenever we fall sick for 2 to 3 days, generally the doctors prefer to give some medicines. Okay, so if after 2 to 3 days, if the fever has gone, no problem. If the fever continues even after 3 days, means it seems to be between above 3 days to 5 or weekdays, then the doctors prefer us to use antibiotics. Okay, so what are antibiotics? Is actually antibiotics are the substances which are prepared from a group of fungi. Antibiotics are the substances which are prepared from a group of fungi to kill harmful bacteria that cause disease. So antibiotics are the chemical substances which are used to kill bacteria that cause diseases. Okay, at the same time, what are the examples for antibiotics? Is penicillin, streptomycin, aureomycin, kanamycin. Okay, all these are the examples for antibiotics. So it is very important that antibiotics we should not use indiscriminately. We have to use the antibiotics prescribed by a qualified doctor. Why? Because there are useful bacteria which is present in our small intestine that helpful for our digestion. So if we use indiscriminately, those useful bacteria may get injured or may damaged. Okay, that leads to digestive problems. That is why we have to use the antibiotics which is prescribed by a qualified doctor. And here we have to know a great person called Dr. Ella Pragada Subbarao. Who belongs to Telugu state, West Godavari, AP. So he discovered antibiotic called tetracycline, and he is also called Wizard of Wonder Drugs. Dr. Ella Pragada Subbarao is also called Wizard of Wonder Drugs, and this tetracycline is used to cure cholera, typhoid, tuberculosis. These diseases can be cured by using tetracycline. Next, discovery of penicillin. Discovery of penicillin. Right. Dr. Alexander Fleming is working as a army doctor. He is working as an army doctor during Second World War. Okay, he observed that most of the soldiers who were injured by the bullets or wounds, they died because of the infection. Okay, because of the infection which is causing around the wound, because of that they are dying. This is what observed by Dr. Alexander Fleming. So one day while he is working in his lab, he observed that a group of fungi was killing or clearing the presence of bacteria. Okay, he identified that fungi as Penicillium notatum. He identified the fungi as Penicillium notatum, and he extracted a substance from that Penicillium notatum and he called it as penicillin. So Penicillium notatum is the fungus name, and he extracted a substance called penicillin, so which is administered to the persons who are infected with harmful bacteria. Okay, so this is the history in the medicinal science, so which leads to the pathway for the young scientists to discover other antibiotics. Okay, so for this achievement, along with Ernest B. Chain and Robert Frost, along with these two people, Alexander Fleming also received Nobel Prize. Okay, along with Robert Frost and Ernest B. Chain, Alexander Fleming received Nobel Prize for his outstanding work in the discovery of penicillin, an antibiotic. Okay, so this is about the discovery of penicillin. Next, vaccine. Okay, right, vaccine. What is vaccine? The weak or dead disease causing microorganisms administered into our body is called vaccine, and the process of injecting vaccine is called vaccination. What is the difference between antibiotic and vaccination? So after we get fever, means which is related to bacteria, then whatever the medicines we are using, they are called antibiotics. Okay, whereas vaccine purpose is prevention is better than cure, right? So before getting the disease, it is important that we have to take these vaccines, so that what will happen, whenever the disease causing organism enter into our body, our antibodies identify the respective disease causing microorganism and kill it because of vaccine presence which we already taken. Okay, so this is about, for example, polio is a vaccine which we are administering to the child below 8 years. Okay, like this. And generally we know there is lot of spreading of the news which is related to polio vaccine during campaign through pamphlets, okay, and other things. So because that is the importance of polio vaccine and all other vaccines. Okay, so this is about, first one is the domestic use of microorganisms, next one industrial use of microorganisms, third one medicinal use of microorganisms, and now agricultural use of microorganisms. Agricultural use of microorganisms, right? So generally in plants like groundnut, there are nodule like structures on their roots. Those nodules are called legumes. Okay, so actually the plant which is groundnut plant belongs to family Leguminosae. Plants have the capacity or mechanism to take oxygen which is present 21% in atmosphere and carbon dioxide which is present 0.03% in the atmosphere, but they did not have the capacity or mechanism to trap nitrogen, which is the most important and essential element, macronutrient required for the plant growth. 70% is present in atmosphere, but the mechanism is not there in the plant. So here what is the solution is, these legumes contain bacteria called nitrogen fixing bacteria. So what are the bacteria here is rhizobium. This nitrogen fixing bacteria is called Rhizobium leguminosarum. Rhizobium. They trap atmospheric nitrogen and convert them into nitrates. They trap atmospheric nitrogen and convert them into nitrates and put in the soil. So roots absorb water. So these nitrate salts which are dissolved in water, along with water, roots absorb these nitrate salts. Okay, here plant is giving shelter to bacteria. Okay, in return bacteria is giving nitrogen. So this type of relationship where both organisms are mutually benefited is called symbiosis. The relationship in which both the microorganisms or both the organisms are mutually benefited is called symbiosis. Okay, next. So decomposers also comes under useful microorganisms only. Before discussing about these useful microorganisms, decomposers, we have to discuss about a small topic called Bt cotton. Few decades or few years back, most of the farmers who sow cotton seeds, they have very less yield and they are suffering with a heavy loss. So that the scientists, agricultural scientists analyzed the problem and they genetically modified the cotton seed. Okay, by extracting a gene from Bacillus thuringiensis. Bacillus thuringiensis is the name of bacteria. By using a special gene from this bacteria which produce a toxic substance, by using this gene they applied in the form of treatment to cotton seeds. Such type of seeds are called genetically modified seeds. So now when the farmers sow such type of seeds, okay, now the yielding is more. What is the reason is, so insects and other caterpillars are continuously feeding the cotton leaves. So when the leaves are continuously feeding by the insects, there is very less yield in the production of cotton. Okay, now these genetically modified seeds are which contain a toxic substance. It is very unpleasant taste to the insect which is eating or feeding. That is why they avoided to eat such type of cotton plants which are genetically modified. Okay, so in this way Bt cotton is prepared. Okay, right. Next. Polio vaccine was discovered in 1952 by Dr. Jonas Salk. And in 1957 these are in the form of drops, means orally. Oral polio drops was developed by Albert Sabin Albert Sabin. Okay, so polio vaccine was discovered by Dr. Jonas Salk, and the oral polio drops was developed by Albert Sabin. Next, so decomposers are the useful microorganisms. They are also called cleaners of the environment. Why? Because if any plant or animal died, it has to be decomposed, otherwise it will spread diseases. So such plant body or animal dead body, or when they die, they are decomposed by the decomposers, and again the nutrients which are present in these bodies are returning to the soil. That is why they are called cleaners of the environment or recyclers. Cleaners of the environment or nature, and also called recyclers. Okay, next. So what are the decomposers? Here is bacteria, some kind of bacteria and some kind of fungi can be used as decomposers. Next, even whenever ships that are carrying oil in huge amount, sometimes there will be, if any leakage occurs or any accidents occur, that may lead to the damage of the entire aquatic life which are present in that area. Why? Because oil is insoluble in water. So this may spread hundreds of kilometers, which is danger to the aquatic life. Then the officers release oil-eating bacteria, a type of bacteria called oil-eating bacteria, and this oil-eating bacteria will clear the oil layer on the surface. Okay, so this is the topic completely about useful microorganisms. In the next topic we will discuss about harmful microorganisms.